Hello and welcome to Right Sport Talk. My name is Zach. We are 9 weeks through the UFL season. We're coming into the final week of this regular season. In week 9 with my picks, I went 2-2, giving me an overall record of 25-11. Now let's get into some of these games and previews for this final regular season weekend of this UFL season. Starting off Saturday, June 1st, you have the Michigan Panthers, who are 7-2, taking on the Birmingham Stallions, who are 8-1. These are two teams that will also play each other the week after this one in the USFL Conference Championship playoff game to see who goes to the UFL Championship. For right now, I just want to talk about this Week 10 matchup and kind of what could happen a little bit of what could happen going forward for their next matchup in the playoffs. So Michigan in Week 9 beat the Houston Roughnecks. Their quarterback, Bryce Perkins, played very well and kind of carried their offense for them. However, he did not get the start in this game. Danny Etling wound up starting in this game, but Bryce Perkins came in and got lots of playing time and kind of took over the game for their offense, having 3 total touchdowns, 2 rushing and 1 passing. And he actually wound up leading the team in rushing yards. The rest of the offense, the running backs couldn't really get anything going, and Bryce Perkins kept kind of giving them that spark that they really needed on offense. Perkins is a player that has been playing well the past few weeks. He hasn't really been there started, but he's gotten playing time the past 3 weeks, and he has actually been playing very well. And in week 9, as through most of the rest of the season, Michigan's defense has played well enough for them to win the ball game. Moving on to Birmingham. Birmingham in week 9 actually suffered their first loss of the season. It's the first loss they've had since last year's regular season and the USFL for them. They lost to the San Antonio Brahmas. So in this game, Birmingham started off very slowly, and it's actually the worst game so far that Adrian Martinez has had as a starter. He had 211 passing yards with 1 touchdown and 1 interception, and he only had 56 rushing yards with no rushing touchdowns. So did okay with his arm, but wasn't really able to get anything going with his legs. And the run game was really held in check the entire game for Birmingham. They only got 78 total rushing yards. However, their defense did play very well. They did only give up 18 points. They lost this game 18-9 to the Brahmas. The defense still played very well. Well, they were a little soft against the run. They were very good against the pass. A little soft against the run. They gave up 127 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. So still good, but they could have played a little better against the run. Maybe if they it started a little bit better on offense and been able to kind of get a lead and force San Antonio to try to beat them without their run game. They could have done a little better. Sometimes teams just have off weeks. That being said, I'm going to get into my pick for this game, and it is going to be the Birmingham Stallions. They're a team that I don't really see losing 2 in a row. I think they will be more locked in for this game, especially because they are going to be playing Michigan in back-to-back weeks. The winner of this game will probably have a huge wave of momentum going into their playoff game, and sure, Birmingham would love to have that momentum on their side as they go into the playoffs against the Michigan Panthers. So that is why I'm going with Birmingham in this game. Now, the following game, also on June 1st, is the San Antonio Brahmas, who are 7-2, versus the St. Louis Battlehawks, who are 6-3. This is another matchup between two teams that will be playing each other in the first round of the playoffs. These are the two teams that will be competing in the XFL Conference Championship game. But there's also a little bit more stakes in this game, as the winner will get home field advantage for that playoff game. So, it's a huge matchup. It's still very much to play for, especially for St. Louis, who, if they were to get home field advantage, that's one of possibly the biggest home field advantage you can have in the XFL, just because they bring in so many fans. They bring in 30,000 to 40,000 fans for each home game, which is a very big advantage for them. So as for how these teams did in Week 9, let's kind of touched on a little bit. San Antonio beat the Birmingham Stallions in Week 9. Talked about San Antonio's defense played very well, holding Adrian Martinez to his worst game as a starter, and shutting down their run game and shutting down Birmingham's run game. And they were also able to get takeaways. They've been very good at getting takeaways this season. Unfortunately for their offense, their pass game really struggled. So Quentin Dormady struggled, and then Chase Garbers, in his first game back from injury, since being injured in Week 3 of the season, they also really struggled. The quarterbacks couldn't really get anything going. They did get a passing touchdown, but that was from one of their wide receivers. But their running game was still very good. It wasn't just one running back carrying the load for them. They kind of were able to, by committee, get themselves 127 yards and 2 touchdowns. So run game did very well. Defense very well against the top offense in the UFL, and much like they've been able to do all season, were able to take the ball away. Now, St. Louis in Week 9 lost to the Arlington Renegades. So the Renegades, going into that game, only had one win, and they were talked about as being, maybe the best one-win team in the UFL, and they got the win over St. Louis. For St. Louis, their quarterback, Manny Wilkins, who, I want to apologize. I believe in my last video I kept calling him Manny Wykins. I had a typo in my notes, and I just didn't catch it. But Manny Wilkins, he had too many interceptions. He had 3 interceptions in that game against Arlington, with one of them being a pick 6 return for a touchdown. Their run game did look very good. Jacob Sailors had 104 yards rushing, and Manny Wilkins actually managed to get 51 yards of his own and 2 touchdowns. But their offense, in addition to Manny Wilkins' 3 interceptions, they also lost a fumble, so they had 4 total turnovers in that game. They easily lost the turnover battle. If you lose the turnover battle, you're not going to win very many games. Their defense did play well against the run against Arlington, but they couldn't really stop the pass. Arlington's quarterback, Luis Perez, much like he's done most of the season against most of the teams, he's able to throw all over all over St. Louis. He had 259 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. And St. Louis's defense didn't get any takeaways, no interceptions, no fumble recoveries, anything like that. So if you have 4 turnovers of your own and you don't force any turnovers, you lose that turnover differential. You lose that turnover battle. You're not going to win very many games. So my pick for this game is going to be San Antonio. It is a home game for St. Louis, and if I was confident that AJ McCarron, A, was going to play, and B, that his ankle was 100%, I would be locked in picking St. Louis with a healthy AJ McCarron. But if they don't have a 100% healthy AJ McCarron, I'm going to go with San Antonio. And their biggest reason is their defense. Even though this is a home game for St. Louis, I think that San Antonio, their defense will show up and continue to play well as they have. Their defense is now number 1 in points allowed in the league. For all season, it was the Birmingham Stallions. It is now San Antonio. And I think especially with their ability to force turnovers, especially if Manny Wilkins is starting and not A.J. McCarron, they will get the job done and they will win the game and they will wind up with home field advantage for their playoff game. And moving on to the Sunday games. So for Sunday, June 2nd, all of the teams playing that day have already been eliminated from the playoffs. So, there is no playoff scenarios for any of those teams. However, that also means that this game for them is their last opportunity, really, for their players to show NFL teams what they can do. So, you should really be seeing players that will be going all out, trying to show what, trying to catch the eye of, some NFL GMs or some NFL teams to try and get invited to NFL camps. So, starting off, the first game is going to be the Arlington Renegades, who are 2-7, taking on the DC Defenders, who are 4-5. Arlington in Week 9, as I talked about, they beat the St. Louis Battlehawks behind a great performance by Luis Perez, who leads the UFL in both passing yards and passing touchdowns. One of his 3 passing touchdowns in Week 9 went to tight end Sal Cannella, who leads the UFL in receiving touchdowns. And as I mentioned, their defense had 4 takeaways. So the defense played very well. Luis Perez played very well. Luis Perez has played very well all season. He is somebody that I would be a little surprised if he didn't get an invite to an NFL camp, but I am also excited to see what he can do in this last game to kind of show what he has and what he can do as a quarterback. The DC Defenders, DC in Week 9 beat the Memphis Showboats, and their quarterback, Jordan Ta'amu, had a very good performance with 3 total touchdowns. He had 2 passing touchdowns and 1 rushing touchdown. Jordan Ta'amu is a player that has had a very up and down season. So he's second in the UFL in passing touchdowns with 13. But he's also thrown 9 interceptions, which is most in the league by any one quarterback. And Jordan Ta'amu was another player that, when he's on, he plays tremendous. Unfortunately, he has had some slip-ups this season, made a few too many errors, throwing interceptions, but he's still a very, very good quarterback. So this is a battle of, teams that have very good quarterbacks, and the difference maker in this could be their defense. And my pick for this game is going to be the Arlington Renegades. Especially with their ability to take the ball away. They have the best turnover differential in the UFL right now. So I think that, Luis Perez is going to be able to go, ball out in this game. And I think their defense is going to play well and possibly get a few key turnovers that make the difference and allow them to win this game and kind of end the season on a bit of a high note for them. The final game for Week 10 is the Houston Roughnecks, who are 1-8, versus the Memphis Showboats, who are also 1-8. These are 2 teams that met each other all the way back in Week 1. In that game, Memphis got the win, got their, thus far their only win of the season. Houston in Week 9 lost to the Michigan Panthers. However, their quarterback, Nolan Henderson, played very well. He's a player that he got some playing time in Week 8 after some quarterback struggles from Reed Sinnett, and Reed Sinnett didn't really play well in Week 8, and Nolan Henderson came in relief, and he didn't really play all that great. He played much better in Week 9 than he did in Week 8. He wound up with 150 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns. He also wound up with 66 rushing yards. He was able to get stuff done with his legs as well. And running back Mark Thompson got a rushing touchdown against the Michigan Panthers, giving him his 5th rushing touchdown in only his 6th game that he's played this season, because he did miss the first few games with injury. Houston is a team that the past few weeks, I think really since they played Birmingham back a few weeks ago, has kind of been playing better. They've kind of caught some momentum. Unfortunately, they've had stuff that hasn't really been going their way, but they have been looking pretty good in games, even in defeat. So they have a talented roster. They just haven't really been able to put it all together, unfortunately, which has caused them to lose a bunch of games. Most of them have been really close games as well. But they do look very good. Or they have been looking very good, and honestly, they looked really good against Michigan. Just couldn't get the job done. Memphis in Week 9 lost to the DC Defenders. Memphis had quarterback struggles in Week 9. It's kind of been the theme, most of the past, for a good portion of the season. The quarterbacks did play pretty well in Week 8 between Josh Love, who got some playing time as well in this game, did not really play as good, and last week Case Cookis, who also played very well, who didn't play in this game at all. It was Troy Williams. So Troy Williams had 15 passing yards on 4 completions, and Josh Love, they did better, only had 105 passing yards and 9 completions. He did, however, get a passing touchdown, but also threw 2 interceptions. And he managed to get a rushing touchdown. Also, for pretty much the first time all season, the rushing offense looked really good. It is by far the best they've looked all season running the ball. Their running back, Darius Victor, had 98 yards and a rushing touchdown. So finally able to pick up some momentum in the run game. Also, wide receiver Vinny Papali got the only receiving touchdown that Josh Love threw. Vinny Papali now has 5 receiving touchdowns on the season. He's kind of quietly been having a very good season. So his 5 receiving touchdowns on the year ties him with 3 other players for second in the UFL. One of the players he's tied with is one of his teammates, Dawood Davis, who also is 4th in the UFL in receiving yards. Also having a very good, quietly having a very good season. I think if Memphis had been playing better, had some more wins, I think these are 2 guys that would be more talked about than they are. But if you look at their numbers, they've got pretty good numbers, despite the fact that Memphis has shuffled through 3 different quarterbacks as the season has gone on. Now getting into my pick for this game, I am going to go with Houston in this game. I just think that they are more talented. I think that they have had more momentum over the past few weeks. They've kept it close against tougher opponents. And, I think that if stuff had gone more their way earlier in the season, they're a team that could have been competing for a playoff spot. Right now, I am going to have them finishing off the season with a victory. So, those are my picks for the final week of the UFL regular season. Let me know what you guys have thought of the UFL season. Maybe some guys from teams that didn't make the playoffs. Some players that you think could have a shot at the NFL. Maybe some players that if they have a really good showing in the final week, they've kind of been on the cusp of being guys that could get invited to NFL camps and just need that one big game to kind of push them over the edge. If there's any of those players that you think about playing this week on teams that haven't made the playoffs, let me know in the comments. Let me know who you think is going to win. Who you guys think is going to win, especially between the teams going to the playoffs. Who you think could build some momentum and get home field advantage between San Antonio and St. Louis. Who you think could kind of really build that momentum going into the playoffs. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, see ya.